So, as I mentioned in my previous audio video, yesterday was the post-World's End edition of AEW Dynamite. And outside of hearing what Adam Cole's explanation was, for being behind the whole devil mask thing, predictable as it was and what have you, as well as getting the fallout, of the event itself, we also were hearing throughout the day that we could possibly see some debuts, mostly for the women's division. And one of the names that was always talked about as possibly showing up last night in debuting was Mercedes Mone, aka Sasha Banks. But the other one was Deonna Purrazzo. Now, Mercedes was talked about more than Deonna. Yes, people were talking about the fact that, hey, we could have two simultaneous debuts for the women's division in one night. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Instead, we ended up getting Deonna instead of Mercedes. And of course, it was in Newark, New Jersey, Deonna Purrazzo's backyard. And the way it looks right now, they are going to be presenting Deonna as a babyface. Which, let's be honest, if you do pay attention to AEW and the women's division, they are kind of solely lacking in. And let's be honest, she's been a heel most of her run in Impact Wrestling TNA. With the occasional babyface turn here and there, but not for too long. So let's see what happens if she is indeed a baby. Oh, let's see what happens, I should say, with her in the role of a babyface if they decide to keep her that way that long. I mean, the Virtuoso, nickname that she has for herself kind of screams heel, but it also could be used as being a babyface. Now, with that said, though, getting back to Mercedes, we did not see her debut last night on Dynamite, nor did we hear any possible return happening last night or very early this morning, last night, depending on the time zone, in Tokyo at Wrestle Kingdom 18. We didn't hear any of that, nor did we hear of her showing up at another event that took place for the women Joshi wrestlers in Japan, which is TJPW, I think. We didn't see or hear of her showing up there. So it got a lot of people wondering, okay, when would she show up? Now, I'm sure a lot of people will say, we got Collision this Saturday. That's true. We do have Collision. And you want to get people to tune into that on a set. And honestly, if you want, I should say, people to tune into that, you wanted maybe make a major debut happen, right? You want basically something to really get people talking, and if they're not at home, to tune in to the on-demand and everything and see exactly what happens, or go to your YouTube page and view the event as it happens, or at least the moment. So yeah, I'm not denying that with Collision this Saturday, there still isn't a second chance that Mercedes could debut. But what's interesting about this, though, is not everybody is buying into it. Yes, it does strongly seem that she's going to be all elite, but even Salamonster said it best. Take what you're hearing right now with a grain of salt. Just like with CM Punk, take what you're hearing with a grain of salt. Because for all we know, what Mercedes and Triple H and Nick Khan and all of them are doing is keeping it on the down low. Like I said with CM Punk, Triple H comes out and says, a deal was made that day or somewhere around that vicinity of time. But a lot of people will probably indicate that it was already done, signed, sealed, and delivered, but they wanted to make it seem and sound like nothing had occurred. Basically throw people off the trail. So the way I look at it right now is if we don't see Mercedes on Collision Saturday, if we don't see her then we may not see her until the Royal Rumble. Because again, they want to keep it a secret. They want to keep people guessing. So as far as Mercedes goes, look, either way, I agree with JD. I just want to see her doing what she does best, and that's perform in that ring. Whether it's AEW, whether it's TNA, because she could be the big signing they're talking about. They say, you got Scott D'Amore saying, hey, we got the biggest signing in TNA history showing up at Hard to Kill. She could show up there. And if that's the case, that's a big win for TNA. They got a very robust women's division. They just lost Deonna Purrazzo, one of the best wrestlers they had. And what better way to replace her, if not upgrade from her? No offense to Deonna. But what better way to replace her, if not upgrade from her, than to have Mercedes Mone? I mean, you want to get people's eyes on your product and show that, hey, TNA is back and TNA is going to once again be the place to be? Then you bring in Mercedes Mone and watch the viewership numbers on your YouTube channel. Watch, people call up the cable and streaming networks and say, get us TNA, get us Access TV. Watch what happens. You will see a positive wave of momentum just based on her showing up. And I know that might sound exaggerating to some, but it's a fact. It is a fact because she has a huge fan base. And along with her comes the likes of, let's say, Snoop Dogg, her cousin. And you can't tell me that TNA would not like to have someone like Snoop Dogg as part of some of their events. I mean, come on. Seriously. And also you got to think about this. Yes, it's going to emanate from the Palms in Las Vegas. And what better way, or better place I should say, what better place outside of her hometown in Boston, as well as Hollywood itself in Los Angeles, what other area is better? What two other areas do you know could be better places to debut for a company? Well, one, on the East Coast, which is their equivalent of Las Vegas, Atlantic City. Atlantic City is a good way to debut because, again, it's the East Coast equivalent of Las Vegas. But Las Vegas, Nevada, the place that never sleeps and everything, the home of a future potential WrestleMania, let's be honest, that's what's going to happen. The home of the Super Bowl this year. I mean, what better area to debut in than Vegas? I'm just saying. So again, I'm totally for wherever she goes, whether it's AEW, TNA, or WWE. If we don't see her at Hard to Kill a week from this Saturday, which I think, hold on for a sec. Yeah, which is a week from this Saturday. If we don't see her at Hard to Kill, nor do we see her at Collision on this Saturday, the 6th. If we don't see her at Collision on the 6th, which is this Saturday, at Hard to Kill, which is the 13th, nor if we don't see her on next week's Dynamite, next Wednesday's Dynamite, then obviously all eyes are going to be pointing towards the Royal Rumble. And the reason I say this is because every fan out there, every person that talks about professional wrestling, sports entertainment on their channel for a living or semi-living, they will tell you honestly that all the options so far that they have thought of have been utilized and wasted, and there's only one option left. And that right there is when you would have to give Triple H possibly his flowers once again for keeping it on the down low. And why? Well, I'll talk about this in another audio video, but let's just say he's a master of old school thinking for a modern era. We'll put it that way. But yeah, we had no Mercedes at Dynamite last night. We still got Collision. We basically have, ladies and gentlemen, if I look at it this way, we have notable dates, major event-wise, from PLE pay-per-views, if you will. We have the 13th and the 27th to look at. Those are the 2 days from a major PLE pay-per-view standpoint in which you can show up. Keep your eyes on those. Other ones that we could look at, are this Saturday, which is the 6th. We can look at the 10th, which is next Wednesday. We could look at, along with TNA, we could look at the Collision for AEW, the 13th edition of Collision. We can look at that as well, along with Hard to Kill for TNA. We could look at the 17th edition of Dynamite, January 17th edition of Dynamite. We could look at the January 20th edition of Collision. We can look at the January 24th edition of Dynamite. And on the same day as the Royal Rumble, we can, if you want to, look at the 27th edition of Collision. You get what I'm saying? Those dates right there, you have to mark on your calendar as possible days she will make her presence known. And I guarantee you, all you have to do is she doesn't show up on Collision this Saturday, cross that out. She doesn't show up on the January 10th edition of Dynamite, cross that out. She doesn't show up at Hard to Kill on January 13th or the January 13th of Collision, cross those out. She doesn't show up on the 17th edition, January 17th edition of Dynamite, cross that out. She doesn't show up on the 20th, January 20th edition of Collision, cross that out. Because then, after you do that, you're left with two other dates. Okay? You are left with January 27th, Royal Rumble and AEW Collision. And then days before that, 26, 25, 24, January 24th, Dynamite. So you are left with two dates after that, January 24th and January 27th. If she does not show up on the January 24th edition of Dynamite, cross that out, and now you're down to the 27th. And if she does not show up on Collision, if she does not, cross Collision out. In fact, even take Collision off the board, let's be honest, because there's no other option for her to show up. So if she doesn't show up on either one of those dates, the 6th, the 10th, the 13th, the 17th, the 20th, 24th, if she doesn't show up on any one of those dates at any one of those shows outside of WWE, then it's guaranteed she's showing up at the Royal Rumble. That's a guarantee. I mean, come on, honestly. They had the best moment, period, to do all this. They had the best moment, period, to do all this last night on Dynamite. Debut her along with Deonna Purrazzo. Basically pull a similar situation like what they did with Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. You have them debut back-to-back in the same segment. You do that. But they didn't. They did not do that. Instead, it was just Deonna. And again, great pickup for them. Phenomenal in-ring performer, no doubt. Basically dubbed the female version of a Dean Malenko alongside someone like a Serena Deeb. Now, like I said, we have Saturday, January 6th, AEW Collision to see if she'll show up. Heck, we even have, believe it or not, tomorrow night, New Year's Revolution edition of SmackDown. New Year's Revolution edition of SmackDown. That could be something too, but we're not sure. Heck, we have the preview show tonight on Peacock. You never know. The point I'm getting at right now is that we have a lot of dates, major event dates to look at, okay? We have, if you want to add SmackDown January 5th in there, New Year's Revolution, you can do that. We have tomorrow night, January 5th. We have January 6th for Collision. We have January 10th for Dynamite. We have January 13th for Hard to Kill, TNA, and AEW Collision. And if you want to even look at it, January 12th of SmackDown. But mostly January 13th, TNA, Hard to Kill, or AEW Collision. We have the January 17th edition of Dynamite. We have the January 20th edition of Collision. And outside of that, we have the January 24th edition of Dynamite and the January 27th edition of Collision. But more importantly, we have the Royal Rumble. So we have a lot of dates to mark down and cross out, anticipating when she shows up. It's like a game of, it's kind of like a game of who done it. But instead of who done it, it's a game of where will she show up? And once you cross out the dates that I just mentioned, that of the events where she could show up at, once you cross those out and you're left with just one, then you'll know. Then you'll know. If she shows up at Hard to Kill as the big signing they're talking about, cross out all the other dates that will come afterwards. Cross those dates out, because hey, mystery solved. But if she doesn't show up, and everything, then cross that date out, cross the collision date out if she doesn't show up there, and then you'll be closer and closer to possibly figuring out. Like I said, it's a game of trying to figure out who done it. You know how, for example, you know how you look in the movies and the shows, people have that little board up and they have all these clues they have up there trying to connect the dots, right? That's kind of like what this is, but it's more along the lines of when and where. Like what would be the most logical place? And once you do that, you'll probably get an answer. Like I said, if she shows up at Hard to Kill, mark off all the dates that come after. Because pretty much case solved, case closed. If she doesn't, but wait, what I'm trying to say is if she doesn't, then again, you have the Dynamite that's after that. You have the TNA tapings after that too, so that's a possibility. So you have to look into that. That would be like the 14th, January 14th, so you could look into that. But I think TNA might want to try to keep it a secret, or might want it to happen when everybody's watching live and not being spoiled. So, again, you could look at the January 13th, to an extent, the following day for the 14th, the tapings and all that, but still, it's like, if she doesn't show up at Hard to Kill, cross that out. Obviously, she won't show up at Collision, cross that out. And then, like I said, you will basically be limiting yourself. You'll be limiting yourself to the exact place, and you'll be limiting yourself, to pinpointing the exact place where she'll show up. So that's just my opinion, because if we didn't get her last night on the post World's End edition of Dynamite, again, the only other dates we have post World's End is Saturday's edition of Collision, and if she doesn't show up there, then we have basically all the other dates I've mentioned, for TNA, for AEW, TNA, and so on. We have all the other dates, and if she doesn't show up at either one of those events, then I guarantee you she's Royal Rumble bound. And that's a fact. But could I be wrong? Absolutely. Absolutely, and maybe she just waits it out. Maybe she's like, I'm going to wait till after WrestleMania to return to WWE, or I'm going to wait until after Revolution to make my AEW debut, or I'm going to wait till after Double or Nothing to make my AEW debut. She could do that. That's her choice. That's her choice. But, with all the speculation going on, and everybody saying that, yes, more than likely she could be All Elite bound, everybody has agreed, do not take everything seriously. Do not take everything seriously just yet. Some people have even said, even Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has even said he will not believe anything until he's heard about ink to paper, period. So, again, like I said in one video, ultimately it's up to her. It's her decision. And if she has decided to go back to WWE, but she has decided, let's keep it on the down low, then so be it. But again, I'm just saying, mark off those dates. Look at those dates. Circle those dates. If you're interested and invested in her return, circle those dates. Circle January 6th. Circle January 10th. Circle January 13th, and to extent January 14th. Circle January 17th. Circle January 20th. Circle January 24th. And mostly circle January 27th. And if she does not show up on any of those dates prior to the 27th, then you'll get your answer. If she doesn't show up at Hard to Kill, then there's still a chance she could show up at Dynamite. And if she doesn't, Because I'll tell you right now, if she doesn't show up at Hard to Kill, that's pretty much confirmation she's WWE bound. You know, that's a fact. It's pretty much confirmation she's WWE bound. You know, there's no doubt about it. But even so, once you cross that out, and she has, and basically you have all the other dates circled, but she doesn't show up on any of those, you'll get your answer. In fact, I tell you right now, you will get your answer on January 24th. Because if she doesn't show up at Hard to Kill a week from Saturday, as that biggest signing in the company's history, if she doesn't show up then, and honestly, she doesn't show up at any of the other events prior to the 27th, especially January 24th's edition of Dynamite, then you'll know. You will know. And the only way Tony Khan will be able to make us know he's got her is if he does what he did for CM Punk and almost at the last second tries to find an opening for Collision or Dynamite to place at the TD Garden Center in Boston. Because remember, when he announced the United Center in Chicago, pretty much everybody knew he got CM Punk. Pretty much, yes, it was a rumor, it was on a whim, but pretty much everybody knew in their heart and soul he got CM Punk. And guess what? CM Punk showed up. I mean, he subtitled that Rampage The First Dance. So what's he going to do this? What's he going to do here? Subtitle Dynamite or Collision? Isn't, something like, Money in the Bank, or, well, you can't do Money in the Bank because that's trademark, but, AEW is Mone, or take it to, AEW Dynamite to the bank, whatever kind of term he comes up with, or Second Dance, or Rebirth, or whatever. I guarantee you, if he finds a way at the last second to do what he did similarly, booking the United Center and all that because he got CM Punk, if he does that similarly for Boston and the TD Garden Center, most guarantee he got her. Most guarantee he got her. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. All I'm advising, and I know I sound like I've been rambling here, I do apologize. I know I sound like I've been rambling, I do apologize. But all he has to do is, not he, but all you fans, all we fans, and the insiders and the people that do this for a living, all we have to do is circle the remaining dates in this year. Saturday, January 6th, Wednesday, January 10th, Saturday, January 13th, for both AEW and TNA, maybe January 20th for that, maybe January 5th as well, for New Year's Revolution SmackDown, and maybe January 12th as a follow-up, but still, if you want to. But mostly, outside of January 5th and 12th, circle, like I say, January 6th, January 10th, January 13th, January 17th, January 20th, and the 24th, and the 27th. And if neither one of those events is one that she does not show up on, if either one of those events is something she does not debut in, then you'll get, like I said, you'll get closer to knowing the truth. You'll get closer to knowing the truth. And I'm telling you right now, if she, out of all those dates I suggested you circle, if the one date prior to the Royal Rumble outside of WWE, which is AEW Dynamite, if she does not show up for that event, then you know she's going to the Royal Rumble. You know it. You know it. And then, like I said, if that happens, if she does not show up before January 27th, and if she especially does not show up prior to 3 days prior to January 27th, then you'll have your answer. And like I said, you would have to give Triple H Paul Levesque his flowers once again for keeping it on the down low. But yeah, as of right now, it definitely feels like, even though people still believe she could be All Elite real soon, and we still got this Saturday on Collision, and by extent, the day prior, New Year's Revolution SmackDown, even though people still feel that she could be AEW bound, you never know. You never know. She doesn't show up at Collision, then like I said, you'll start getting a better idea of where she'll show up. I mean, I'll tell you, if she is the big signing TNA's talking about, if she doesn't show up at Collision this Saturday or on the Dynamite before then you'll know. Maybe there's a good chance she's the signing. But if she doesn't show up then either, then whew, you know, it'll definitely feel like, once again, you know, something similar to the whole Punk deal and him returning to WWE. But let me know what your thoughts are. Again, I do apologize if I sounded like I rambled and was repetitive, but give me your thoughts. Do you think it's a good idea to basically do what I suggested, and that just circle those certain dates that I mentioned to see and cross them out, you know, whenever she doesn't debut? And what do you think's really going on? Let me know down below in the comments. Love the live chat during the premiere. Like the video, and until next time, I'm out.